Okay, so you know that feeling, right, when you're listening to someone speak English? It's like everything clicks. You get it. But then it's your turn to speak.
Hmm.
And suddenly it's like this wave of doubt. Like, can my mouth even form these words? Trust me, you are so not alone.
Yeah, it's such a common experience for English learners. Like you've cracked the code of understanding, but that active part, the speaking, that's where things can get really tricky.
Exactly. So for today's deep dive, we are tackling this head on. We dug into this audio all about mastering spoken English. And oh my gosh, I was scribbling down notes left and right. And it starts by introducing us to some people who are in the exact same boat. Remember Maria?
Oh, yes, Maria. She moved to a new country
Yeah,
and she could understand everything perfectly, but she was way too nervous to actually speak. I feel like her story is something that a lot of people can identify with.
totally. And then there was John, worried that his coworkers wouldn't take him seriously because he
Yeah.
was struggling to express himself clearly. And it's just amazing how just hearing those stories and knowing that other people get it, it makes the whole thing feel less intimidating.
Yeah, and that's the power of relatability, right? It takes this fear that can feel so isolating. And it just makes it clear, like, this is normal, this happens, and more importantly, you can totally overcome it.
Totally. It's like, okay, I'm not the only one who blanks out mid-sentence and then resorts to frantic hand gestures. But what I love is how the audio didn't just stop at "you're not alone." Like, it went deep on strategies you can actually use, like starting small with consistent actions. Instead of trying to become fluent overnight,
Which, let's be honest, is never how it works.
yeah,
It's like the audio said, even having quick conversations with yourself at home, maybe practicing how you'd order your coffee that day in English. Those little wins, they build up over time. They even gave the example of finding a colleague to chat with during a lunch break.
oh yeah, building it into your routine so it
Mhm.
becomes natural.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Because
okay.
consistency trumps intensity every time when it comes to language learning.
And it's funny you mentioned building it into your routine. Because they had some really cool suggestions for doing that, like based on what you already enjoy.
Totally.
Like, let's say you are a music lover, singing along to English songs.
Mm.
It's not just fun, right? It actually helps with your rhythm and your pronunciation
Oh, really?
without even realizing it.
It's so true. And they also talk about if you're more of a social person, like seeking out conversation clubs or language exchange partners, that can make practice feel like way less of a chore.
Oh my gosh, it's brilliant. Because then you're not just
Yeah.
learning grammar rules from a textbook. You're having actual conversation.
Exactly.
You're making connections.
Absolutely. And you're probably, making mistakes along the way, which the audio was surprisingly encouraging about.
They were huge on embracing those mess ups. Oh, was it they said? Something like,
Yeah.
mistakes are just proof that your brain is figuring things out.
Yes.
Love that.
I love that too. And I think it's not just something to tolerate, right? It's actually essential for growth. When we
Yeah.
stumble in a new language, like our brains take note and then they adjust those neural pathways. It's making it more likely that we'll get it right the next time.
So basically, every time I trip over a word, it's like my brain is doing a little bicep curl,
Mm.
getting stronger.
I love that analogy.
Love it.
Yeah.
Okay, but doesn't everyone learn a little differently?
Yeah, I get. Well, that's where finding your style comes in, which the audio also touched on. It's about recognizing how you learn best. Some people might be through structured lessons. Other people, it's all about immersion and real life practice. But embracing those mistakes, it helps you to figure out what clicks for you.
And this is where I felt like the audio went from how to so what, which I thought was really powerful because it wasn't just about speaking English well, but like what that actually does for your life.
Right.
About confidence, relationships, careers.
You're like unlocking all these different areas of your life, right?
Yep.
Suddenly you're able to connect with more people, express your ideas more clearly, and even pursue opportunities that might have felt out of reach before.
Totally. And they gave some really compelling examples, like Maria, who we talked about earlier. Remember how she was super nervous about customer interactions?
Yes.
When she felt more confident speaking English,
Yeah.
she totally aced those interactions.
It's amazing how quickly things can shift when you start putting yourself out there.
And John, with his worries about being taken seriously at work, turns out, improving his English communication skills led to more responsibility and a greater sense of fulfillment in his career.
It's proof that this goes beyond just language. It's about opening doors
Mhm.
to new possibilities in all areas of life.
And you know what else they said? They said that when you can speak English fluently, it opens these doors to new friendships, to new experiences you might not have even imagined before.
Yeah, it's like you said, it just opens all these doors, and it helps you realize that so much more is possible when you can communicate effectively in English. And, that brings us back to why we're doing this deep dive, why this topic even matters. It's not just about, grammar rules or a vocabulary list. It's about the impact it has
Yeah.
on your confidence, on your relationships, and your ability to just go after all the things you want in life.
Yeah, and it's almost like learning to speak English. This amazing side effect
Right.
of something much bigger, connecting
Understand.
with new people, connecting with new ideas, even new parts of yourself.
You just hit the nail on the head. It's about personal growth. It's about empowerment. And to wrap things up here, I think it'd be valuable to leave our listener with just one thing to reflect on.
Ooh, I like that. Okay, so for everyone listening, here's a thought-provoking question to carry with you. Imagine you could have one conversation in English with absolutely zero fear holding you back.
Right.
What would that conversation be? Who would you talk to? And what amazing things would you finally feel confident enough to say?
I love that because when we can envision those conversations, those connections that we're capable of, it makes all the effort worth it.
Exactly. Conquering spoken English. It's not just about achieving fluency. It's about finding that power and that freedom
Yeah.
in your own voice.